was, but they played other songs on the new record, but they didn't play that. So like it was
And that song's pretty different from anything else on the record.
Yeah, but that song is a hit, man. That song is so good.
It's so good. Yeah, it's been going through my mind a lot.
But what was so funny is that they are proper British. Like the singer was up there and he was just like like I can't even do a British accent, but it was just like imagine somebody pulled from Train Spotting in a hardcore band on stage. It was so it was very good.
Totally.
Even though that's Scottish, I do know that, but still
Scottish. It's shite being Scottish. Oh, I need to see that movie again. It's been too long. Did you like the part 2? Did you like the sequel?
I did. It's a much different movie, but I thought it was
I think I need to watch it again.
I mean, it definitely rung true at my age, right? Like, it was definitely, but I did think it was good. Yeah.
All right, everybody. Hello, y'all. We are live.
Let's see.
Hi, Willie. And Morbius and Clinton.
All right. 70 episodes, guys. I saw somebody early in the chat. Sean said, congratulations on 70 episodes, which is a nice round number on our way. Well, we won't get to 100 by the end of the year, but we're well on our way.
No, we'll get to 100 probably mid next year would be my guess.
Yeah. I mean, it goes sequentially, so we'll get there eventually.
Well, yes, of course.
In 30 episodes, we should just swerve and just do our 100th episode next week. So.
Yeah, we pull a Samsung.
Yeah,
we're just skipping right to the S20.
Yeah.
Isn't that the one that they did it? Like they skipped the S9 and they went right to the S20.
S10 and then S20. They skipped S11.
They're like, screw this. Okay.
I'm trying to decide the title of this stream. Before I start streaming it onto X, yeah.
Android Faithful number 70. I mean, you got Android 15.
Yeah,
you got Chromebook reviews.
Lots of Android 15.
You got Chromebook reviews.
Mm-hmm. You got the longest email ever in the history of the show.
But I thought it was good, though, right? I thought it was interesting.
It's just long.
Yeah.
Jason, I think something like that works if we like break it up a little bit. If it's not just
I mean, I think But I think sharing the different points, and then that sort of thing will be good. Jason, you do have the right link to the Chromebook. The Lenovo.
Okay. I just saw a few come back, and I was like, is this an older one or newer one?
No,
or what?
It's the latest one.
Okay, and then I've got an overhead shot, but it's the Chromebook's too big for it.
Oh, really?
I can't pull out the zoom any more than that, so it's like exactly the size.
I have that problem also with my current setup. Like, if I pull out the laptop that I'm using, I definitely want to be able to fit it in frame. Like, actually, right now, the laptop I'm reviewing, I didn't mention, is Samsung sent me the Galaxy Book 5 Pro 360. It's a 16-inch laptop. I've never used a 16-inch laptop before. It's huge.
My last.
It would not fit in this.
Yeah, my last job's laptop was a 16 or 17-inch MacBook Pro, and I hated it. It was just so big. Like, every time I got on a plane, I felt like I was pulling out.
Yeah. I thought I would actually dislike the 16-inch size, but I did take it on a trip with me on a plane, and I didn't do any work on the plane. Or actually, no, I did. I sat in if you're sitting in regular economy, I don't think there's any way you're gonna have enough space.
Yeah,
leg space to pull it out. At least premium economy, you'll have enough space. So I was able to get some work done. But what really helped out is because it's 360, you're able to completely flip it over and use it like a tablet, or kind of prop it up in reverse. I don't know, like the L shaped, where you have the keyboard flush down and then you have the screen facing up. It's really nice being able to watch TV shows and stuff, YouTube videos that I downloaded in that form factor.
Use it like a transformer. Yep, those come in handy. Yeah, I had God, was it a 16 or a 17-inch MacBook Pro years ago when at Twit, when I was doing a lot of video editing still for my job, and I had the really large, and it was great, but traveling was where you really felt it. It was very big and heavy. But if you're doing something like editing video, it's nice to have all that real estate. I loved it for that. But yeah, it's a chonker, as we sometimes say, for sure. Okay.
Like I gotta restart
I'm feeling
the stream.
I'm hearing a tiny bit of echo.
Is it my headphones too loud?
Might be a little bit of a headphone echo.
Stream again.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, are we good to go?
I think so.
I had an error with the stream. At least, let me see if redoing it.
Working?
I've never had it before. I mean, to be fair, I've only done it like just the 4th time. Let's see if that works.
Maybe they know how you voted. Oh, sorry.
Oh.
I gotta
say the blue sky. I'm seeing the blue sky Exodus or the X Exodus blue sky.
I'm gonna be honest. I don't see it. I see a lot of people. I feel like it's the same thing as happened with last time with blue sky people going over. It always felt kind of short lived. Like, is it gonna have staying power? And right now for me, is that I already post on 4 different platforms, and that's annoying enough as it is.
Yeah.
To like sync everything between and like just adding blue sky onto the mix, it's just something I don't want to do unless I know for sure it's going to stick around. I've already considered at some point not doing Mastodon anymore, but there are so many developers there and like different communities that are just nowhere else that, I can't stop posting to Mastodon. But that's the only platform that I've considered not posting to anymore.
Yeah, I don't really post to Mastodon unless it's promo-y stuff. Yeah, I've been liking Blue Sky the last couple of days. I've been really impressed by the amount of like follows that are coming in. The follow packs or whatever they call it, the packs. I don't know, starter packs. There we go. Have been really useful. Apparently, people are finding me. That's awesome. But yeah, we'll see how much lasting power it has. But I'm happy so far. All right.
Okay. Let's see if the stream works this time.
Yeah. I see the little icon.
I did I already started the stream once, and then after a few seconds, it like had an error message saying it couldn't stream for some reason.
Yeah, it says you
went
are
on my
live.
profile. Maybe it was just the title I did last time. I had like an issue, so I just shortened the title.
Okay.
Okay, and I think I see it on my profile.
Yeah, I'm looking.
No,
it
looks
says,
like now it says we're having
swirling.
trouble streaming.
Yeah, it's swirling. It's almost like it can't quite do it for some reason.
Okay, I guess I'll
It's
just
trying.
I'll just leave it on. I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
Whatever. I guess we'll just maybe next week.
We'll see what happens. Yeah, it looks like it's just it's fighting to make it work. Still says 0 views. Maybe it'll kick into gear.
Yeah, maybe it's a StreamYard issue, or maybe it's a
X issue.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's bonus anyway, so I mean, it's not. We don't,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Let's not kill ourselves over it.
Anyways, yeah. I guess we could just start without it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Until we start selling it, I'm not as worried about it.
Yeah.
Yeah, totally. Okay. I need to make sure I've got the loop off. Okay, cool. You guys good to go?
Yep.
We'll go ahead and remove Mishaal. And then, Ron, you want to do the top stuff
Yeah, sure.
today? All right.
Yep.
I will stop my camera. I will put this thing up. And then if you are good to go, I will go ahead and kick it off.
I'm as good as I'll ever be.
Excellent. That's what I like to hear. The fighting spirit. All right, here we go.
Well, hello, and welcome to Android Faithful, your weekly source for the latest news, hardware, and apps for the world of Android. My name is Ron Richards.
My name is Texploder, also known as Jason Howell.
There he is.
And I'm Mishaal Rahman.
Hello, gentlemen. It's boys' night here at Android Faithful, as Win is off on adventures. We do miss her, though.
We miss you, Win. Come back to us, please.
Is she chilling, for the holidays?
Did you get it? Oh, you got the holiday bug droid.
Bug droid.
I will admit the
Nice.
Google, the holiday sweater with the Google dinosaur design is very clever. So
yeah, you can see the
yeah,
dinosaurs.
Oh, I love
Chrome dino.
it.
Appreciate that a lot.
That's so cool.
That's
So,
very cool.
so do you know exactly how many of those you actually have at this point, or if you had to estimate, is it like 20?
Oh no, heavens no! I only started collecting these like within the past year,
Oh,
and really only ramping up since like the new design came out. Like that's when I really got into getting I have to get every single one because the new
Gotta catch 'em
3D
all.
bug droid it's so good.
Yep. Very, very
Sweet.
cool. If you want something also that's pretty cool, I want to remind everybody that if you go to androidfaithful.threadless.com, our friends over at Threadless are currently having a sale where you can get 20% off everything, including the Android Faithful Frequency t-shirt that's up there. That sale goes until November 14th. So if you're watching live right now, you got a couple of days. If you're listening to this tomorrow or Wednesday, or tomorrow is Wednesday or Thursday, you have time to go get your t-shirt, get some savings. But I feel like it's time for us to get a new t-shirt. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I think so.
I think so. Well, so
I love this design.
Not this design.
You know
Not
what?
this
this
design
is
is
great,
fire.
and we've sold a
It's
bunch
amazing.
and want to continue. So if you haven't gotten the frequency shirt, go buy it with a discount now.
It's not going away.
Yeah, not going away. It will never go away. Next week, we're going to unveil a new t-shirt design. But I'll tell you, patrons over at patreon.com/AndroidFaithful, you'll get first glimpse and access to it. First access to when the shirt goes on sale later this week. So become a patron by Friday. And if you want to get the jump on the first new t-shirt, you can do it there. A little tease there for you, my friends.
We know how the demographics break down in all the cities across the land. You live in a city that is filled with Android Faithful fans, and you're all walking around wearing the same shirt like, oh, hey, Phil, yeah, you're wearing that shirt. I got that shirt too. This is your opportunity to really stand out amongst all the other Android Faithful fans in whatever city you happen to live in. This is an opportunity.
It's an opportunity. There you go. And there's another opportunity for you to be heard. I want to thank everybody who's filled out our listener survey so far. I want to remind folks who haven't as of yet, there's still time to. Our partners over at Acast who host the audio podcast want to know more about our audience. So if you go to bit.ly/AndroidFaithful-survey, that's bit.ly/AndroidFaithful-survey. Link will be in the show notes, and we thank everybody who's filled it out so far. Got a note from Acast today. They said, you're getting a bunch of responses. That's awesome. Keep it going. So help us help you. Help us get advertisers to help you keep the show in business. So there you go.
Good. Good stuff. Thanks for sharing. Those of you who have shared so far, thank you for doing that. We know we've hit you with two completely separate and removed surveys in the last handful of months.
So we appreciate it.
Thanks for doing it again.
They're all helpful though. So
Yeah, they are.
all right. Well, so I made a tragic mistake yesterday as we were planning this week's show. I looked at the landscape of news and I was like, finally, it looks like things are quieting down. We're gonna have a slow week. We can kind of just relax a bit. And Mishaal then pointed to the direction of the rake for me to step on to smash my face because sure enough, Android 15 QPR2 Beta 1 is here. Just as Mishaal, you warned me it would be happening. So
Yeah.
right. So tell us all about it.
So Google rolled out the first beta for Android 15 QPR2. This is the second quarterly platform release of Android 15. This release will go stable in March of 2025. So this is like 4 months before the actual stable release of this update. We're getting the first beta of what to expect. And of course, there are a lot of changes both under the hood and as well as, available to users right now. So if you install the beta on your Pixel phone, one of the first things you'll immediately recognize is that the Do Not Disturb mode feature has been completely replaced with modes. And this is something I talked about before. Although I expected it to land in Android 16, Google has released it in Android 15 QPR2. So this feature basically allows you to create fully customizable Do Not Disturb mode schedules. So right now, if you've ever used Do Not Disturb mode, it can silence alerts from phone calls, apps, messages, text messages, etc. And you can schedule it to go on a certain time of day or when a certain calendar event happens, but you can only have one Do Not Disturb mode. And if you want to have multiple schedules for, like, say you want one schedule on Saturday that's different from one schedule on Sunday because you do different activities, like, I don't know, you go gardening or you go hiking or you're watching a movie and you want to create a movie Do Not Disturb mode, or you have some other activity, you had to basically edit that Do Not Disturb mode every single time. But with modes now, you can create custom schedules for whatever suits your needs. You can add custom text, so you can name the mode whatever you want. You can choose from 40 icons to give it a little bit of personal flair. And you can toggle these modes through a new quick settings tile called modes. And whatever mode is active, you'll see that icon that you added in the status bar on the lock screen in AOD. So I've gotten this a lot, and people are saying this is quite similar to focus mode or focus, whatever it's called in iOS. As you can tell, I don't know much about iOS, so when people tell me, I'm like, yeah, sure, it's just like that. So yeah, this is something that Android has probably needed for a long time, and I'm glad to see Google finally add it in Android 15 QPR2.
Cool.
And that's not all, of course, because there are a couple other things. I would say that's the biggest thing. That's the most important for regular users. The next feature is more aimed at developers, and it's the inclusion of a Linux terminal app. So this is something, again, that I talked about before, and again, I expected it to be in Android 16, not now. But basically, this app will allow you to run Linux apps in a virtual machine on your phone. So this app is something you have to enable in developer settings first, and then once you do, you'll get this new terminal icon on your home screen that you can tap, and then it'll launch, it'll download and run Debian, which is a popular Linux distribution, in a virtual machine. And then you can send commands to that Debian virtual machine through this this terminal app. And this will allow you to run Linux apps, on your Android device without having to boot, have a separate partition and, switch instances. It's all done through your same device. The caveat though right now is that it doesn't work. There's some issue with getting it working in this initial build. I'm not surprised because Google hasn't even technically announced this yet. It's just something that I spotted in QPR2 Beta 1, but hopefully something we can get working soon. And the next change is something that if you used a Pixel phone a couple of years ago, you might remember back in Android 11, Google used to let you customize the font, the icon shape, the accent color, and all that jazz.
I remember that. Yeah.
But when they released Android 12, they got rid of some of those things, most notably the icon shape options. Because they wanted to simplify everything with Material You.
We want you to personalize it and make it Material You, but by our rules.
But not too personal.
Not too personal. Yeah, exactly.
So it looks like Google is working on a new icon shape customization, or bringing back icon shape customization in a future release of Android. And
I don't know how I feel about this.
I mean, it's something you can already do on your Pixel phone if you just install a third-party launcher or an icon pack.
Sure, yeah. And I guess if it's in the OS, I don't have to use it. I guess, right?
No,
I mean,
it's a customization option.
I err on the side of I like the developer-based, customized, full width, full usage icon solution, right? Seeing starbursts and little other little shapes and things like that, just that it makes my head hurt. But
hey, if people want to make their home screens ugly, let them.
Right? Yeah. Hey, I guess they can do that on iOS now.
That's their choice. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. A lot of that going on.
Yeah.
Starburst. Yeah, that is a shape. Not sure I'd be selecting the Starburst. I do wonder how that would interact with some logos, At least with the circle, there's that kind of uniformity. It might not be etching into the actual image.
I think that's kind of why I think by like the design guidelines say you shouldn't have your icon like filled to the edge,
right?
Because already when you're submitting icons, you're submitting a square, and it's already masking that into a circle. So it's kind of something that is already under consideration by developers.
Got it. Interesting.
And the last change is under the hood, Google is rolling out a major kernel version upgrade to all Tensor-powered Pixels. So the Pixel 6 series, the Pixel 7 series, and the Pixel 8 series are all now running Linux kernel 6.1 after updating to Android 15 QPR2 Beta 1. Previously, the Tensor G1 devices and the Tensor G2 devices were running Linux 5.10, and the Tensor G3 devices were running Linux 5.15. And the benefit, I guess, like there's no end user benefit actually in upgrading the kernel version. It's not something you're going to care about or actually notice in day-to-day use. But this is important for long-term longevity of the device. So like if you want your device to get 7 years of updates or 5 years of updates, you're going to have to at one point get a Linux kernel update for your device just because of the way Android's vendor software requirements work. Like Google requires each Android version to support a particular Linux kernel version, and at some point they drop support for older versions. So if you want to upgrade the Android version, you have to also occasionally upgrade the Linux kernel so you can also keep the device updated and meet the new requirements. And so this is going to be important, especially for the Pixel 6 series and Pixel 7 series, because if those are going to get Android 16 and beyond, you're going to also want those to get updated because they were running older versions of the kernel that might get dropped soon. Yep. So it's important now for Google to do this so that they can continue pushing updates later on for those devices.
For the next 5-6 years.
Yeah.
Right?
Although I think the Pixel 6 only has 2 more years, I think, of updates.
Oh, because it was ahead of the 7-year kind of update promise.
There it is.
Interesting. All right. Well, that is not it when we're talking about Android 15. Actually, before I segue, if a lot of these things, Mishaal, were what you thought were going to come out on the next version of Android, what are you even left with at this point? It's nothing. You have to start over again.
Maybe he gets to take a break then, a well-deserved break.
Yes. Okay. Fair enough. You do deserve a break from time to time, but not too long. We need to know what's coming around the corner. Yeah. Speaking of Android 15, we've got it finally kind of starting to hit devices that aren't Pixel devices. And actually, last week we talked about the latest OnePlus 12. Or sorry, the latest Oxygen OS update, Oxygen OS 15, coming to the OnePlus 12 and the OnePlus 12R soon. Well, that soon is now. If you have those devices, it is rolling out now to both of those devices. So essentially, these are some of the earliest devices that aren't Pixels to get the Android 15 update. And wow, that beta did not last very long. It came out in beta and like 2 weeks later, boom, getting it. OnePlus is on top of their game right now with this update. It's pretty impressive. And then you have, of course, the 12, the 12R, and the Vivo X Fold 3 Pro getting the update via FunTouch OS. Oh, it's so fun. It's so fun to touch FunTouch OS 15 on the Vivo. So anyways, it's getting, sorry, that just, I don't know why I never noticed how silly that OS name actually is. Getting Android 15, and then finally Nothing OS 3.0 coming in open beta for the Nothing Phone 2. So the 2A already had it. It got that update. The beta update last month. This month, now coming to the 2. If you have the 2, you can go ahead and hop on the beta and get some Android 15 rolling out smoothly and quickly, but not coming to Samsung phones. You might think that Samsung would be on top of their game too, but I think it's going to be early next early next year is I think what they're targeting.
I mean, I wonder, and Mishaal, I mean, I don't know if you're one to do this or if there's somebody out there tracking it, whatever, but there's got to be an equation around the complexity of the new version of Android with the customizations that company has applied to their version of the OS with the amount of resources they have, which we'll never have insight to the amount of resources, right? But I'm sure if Samsung wanted to throw hundreds of developers at one UI and they could get it up before the end of the year, but for whatever reason they're choosing not to, right? It's a choice that the OEMs are making, right? Or do I have that fundamentally misunderstanding it, right? Because they've got to take the new version of Android and put all their stuff on it, make sure all their stuff works, test it, all that sort of stuff, give it some little zhuzh to make it their own, right? And then roll it out.
Well, I mean, it's not like they're doing it, Google releases source code publicly in September. It's not like they started the work in September. They started months ago because Google gives them pre-release access. But, depending on how many changes they have to make and test for, they could take, an extra additional amount of time to actually port all of their changes on top. But then, yeah, it does. A lot of the timing does depend on their own product release cycle. Like, Samsung has its own product launches that they wants to target the latest version of One UI around, right? It's not like they are rushing to immediately get it out as soon as possible so they can say they're the first after Google. They want to roll it out at a time that makes sense for them and their customers.
Yep. Right.
And hopefully not rush something out and then regret it later, as Samsung's experienced that before in different ways. No company wants to do that. But I think that's what's kind of impressive about OnePlus being able to nail it. And I wonder, like, kind of to your point, Ron, does that speak to, like, when I think of Samsung, I think of, wow, they've built up so much over the course of the last decade and a half with their phones and all of these, very specific Samsung features and all these things that they then have to test and support against, versus OnePlus, which has also done a good job of building out Oxygen OS and has a lot of more complexity in it now than it had a number of years ago, but still with that complexity still able to kind of turn it around. And I wonder if they're doing it because they're able to take more of a risk with it, or what I mean, like, or is it just a less complex version of Android or kind of layer of Android that they're working with versus when compared to a company like Samsung and what it's done over the years.
Right. And when you think about what OnePlus has coming, like OnePlus is rolling out their new phone, obviously they wanted they want everything looking at OnePlus to be the best and the latest and greatest. So it behooves them to scramble to get it out, right? And in a quality kind of manner. So
yeah, totally.
So, all right, cool. Well, and talk about rolling things out. Mishaal, actually, you wrote this up over at Android Authority. The fact that Google is going to be forcing OEMs, other manufacturers, other phone manufacturers to integrate the quick share consent screen into a phone setup, into the phone setup stage, which is pretty much a big deal because this is something that not a lot of people are aware is under the hood on Android. And by putting it right at the front of the setting up your phone to consent to it, will get people to be like, oh, cool, I can do that, and maybe get more usage out of it. That said, I'll play devil's advocate here. After recently setting up my not OnePlus, my Pixel, what number are we on? What Pixel 9 Pro? Pixel 9. There are a lot of consent screens that happen on when you're setting up this phone now, right? So it's getting a little
the onboarding is pretty deep these days, for sure.
Yeah. But hey, I think quick share is great. More people should use it. If this is a way that they think could do it, that'd be great. But at what point does that setup process seem bloated and you just become noise where you just say, it's almost like the terms and conditions where you're like, yes, like that sort of thing.
Although I would say that when someone's setting up a new phone, like We are the outliers. We set up phones all the time. And so it can be kind of numbing when we set up a new phone. We're like, oh God, I got to skip through these 20 screens versus someone out there who has had their phone for 3 or 4 years. They buy this brand new phone. They're excited. They're like, oh, I finally upgraded and they get it. They're probably looking pretty closely at these things because they're like, I just got this new phone. Oh, and it can do this. Oh, that's so cool. You know what I mean? They're probably seeing it through different eyes than we do. Yeah. You know, because it can be mind numbing to me skipping through them all because it's like barriers for me to just get started with my review or whatever versus what other people see when they buy a new phone, which is yay.
Yep. Exactly.
And hey, even if it's not like reaching every single person it should reach, as long as it raises awareness by some measurable amount, I think it's a good thing.
Especially
because there's so many people who have no idea Quick Share exists.
Yeah. Totally. I totally agree.
Yeah. Cool. All right. What else we got on the Android TV world?
So just some quick updates in terms of the requirements needed to launch an Android TV device. So I heard apparently at the Android TV developer conference that they hold every year for like their OEMs, their manufacturer partners, Google announced that they are lowering the minimum amount of memory needed to launch a Android TV device. The previous minimum was 1.5 gigabytes for a 2K resolution TV, and I think it was 2 gigabytes for a 4K TV was the minimum before, but now you only need 1 gigabyte of RAM to launch a 2K TV Android TV device. And you may be wondering, there aren't a lot of Android TV devices out there anymore. Like, it's mostly shifted over to Google TV. Yep. Well, there was a bit of confusion about that. Android TV is still used by some operators. So there are some basically devices that are sold straight from a operator to your home. They're not really like branded with a specific brand like Xiaomi or Google or anything like that. But they like have your operators, your TV networks programming, things like that. So those are still existing, but the vast majority of devices are now 2 gigabytes. Are Google TV now. And what it looks like is apparently the minimum amount of memory needed to launch a Google TV device might be 2 gigabytes instead of 1 gigabyte for Android TV. Although I talked to a source afterwards, and that might not be the case. It might be actually the case that it's both Android TV and Google TV's minimum has actually been dropped to 1 gigabyte of RAM, but I haven't been able to confirm if that's actually true for both platforms and not just Android TV. In any case, you might be wondering, is 1 gigabyte of RAM enough to actually run Android TV? And the answer is...
feel like it.
It doesn't feel like it. But apparently Google is working on optimizations to make Android TV work better with only 1 gigabyte of memory. And hopefully that pans out, because... such low amount of memory is definitely not a good contributor to, fluid, rapid experience. And like, if you ever try the new Google TV streamer, one of the big upgrades that it has is 4 gigabytes of memory, which apparently helps a lot with its performance. Jason, you tried it, right? The Google
TV streamer? Yeah. It's the streamer that we use on a regular basis in the other room. And yeah, it's great. I mean, from a performance standpoint, it's great. We are having this weird issue where every once in a while audio will drop out for a split second and then it'll come back. And that only happens in Netflix. So I wonder if it's an app related issue. But that's really the only...
That could be a router. It could be a port configuration issue too. The only issue the Google streamer is in our living room, and me and the kids are using it. That is our primary TV thing. The only problem I haven't run into any audio dropouts. I've noticed it's smoother than the old Google TV Chromecast. The only problem I found is that I took this opportunity to set up a kid's profile. So now I've got my profile where the stuff me and my wife watch, and then there's and I'm using the kids version, and it's got the cute graphics and everything like that. And then I go to YouTube, and it's like, sign in to get personalized recommendations. And I click sign in, and then I choose the kids account, and I go to YouTube. It goes sign in to get personalized recommendations.
No, I hate that.
Yeah, like and then like I just say forget it. I go back to my account so I can use YouTube because I've already got filters and the channels they like and things like that. And then the next day they're logged in fine. So I don't know what or why that's not happening. So.
Oh, that's bizarre. That's bizarre.
Yeah.
Yeah, a gig for memory for a large screen TV. I don't know. It sounds not enough, but I guess if you're just running a single app and it's just a media streaming app, maybe it is.
Yeah.
Probably on a device like that, you're not running high intensity demanding games. You know what I mean?
You know what's also just good enough for TV streamer devices?
What?
Infrequent software updates. Because it looks like Google is moving to a biannual or once every 2 years release cycle for Android TV. Apparently, Google announced this at the same developer conference earlier this year. They said that they are moving to releasing Android TV once every 2 years. So by that, I'm guessing that Google will be skipping Android TV 15 and will release Android 16 instead for TVs in 2026. Because this year, 2024, we got Android 14 for TVs, and that debuted with the Google TV streamer. So, once every 2 years, the next release logically would happen in 2026. And, I don't see any reason why we would, if 2 years from now, Google release Android 15 for TVs when Android 15 will have already been over a year old by that point. So that's why I'm thinking we'll have Android 16 for TVs instead in 2026, although I don't know for sure. Yeah. But that's just what I'm guessing based on this change to biannual release cycle.
We'll see.
Okay. I don't think it's going to matter much.
Yeah,
because Android TV updates are already tiny. People say, and I vehemently disagree with this. People always say, "Oh, every Android version is so small. Android 15 is such a tiny update."
Yeah,
that's so far from the truth.
Well, you're
but when it comes to Android TV, that's absolutely true.
Yeah.
Android TV updates are definitely small.
Yeah.
I can't argue with that.
Yeah.
But so that's why I think it's okay to have Android TV being released, once every other year. Yeah. How much can you add to a TV? In a single update, right? There's not much new functionality you can add to a device that's dedicated to just streaming a couple of apps. Yeah. Launching a few apps that's dedicated to watching videos.
Unless you're really drastically changing the UI in some way or whatever.
Which that would annoy people a lot if they did.
Right,
that.
Yeah, because but that's the thing is that this latest version was supposed to be a drastic kind of thing, and it didn't really change much, to be honest. They added.
No, it didn't. It's really interesting because I just did a big media streamer shootout between the streamer, the Google TV streamer, the ON 4K Pro, and the Apple TV 4K. And the Google TV streamer and the ON 4K Pro are running, one is running Android 12, one is running Android 14. You wouldn't know any different between the two of them. They've both got all of the AI stuff for the most part. The interface is the same. I mean, it really is kind of interesting how there are two completely different versions of Android. And yet, if you put them up side by side, you probably wouldn't know which is which. You might detect a little bit of a performance hiccup on the ON just because it has a lower power processor from 2019. But from a presentation standpoint, you know what I mean? The majority of people would never even know. So you're right. I don't think these things change that much, it seems like, in the TV space.
Yeah. Well, it is interesting because I just bought a new TV for our basement for the kids to watch, and I went against the Patrick Norton rule, which is just to buy a dumb monitor and don't worry about any of the software and buy a device to hook it up to. And I bought a Hisense TV with Google TV in it because I know. We talked to Google about Google TV and the commitment and the OEMs, and so I'm like, they're gonna keep this thing updated, they're gonna support it, but I'm already looking, I'm like, how much memory does this TV have? Which, by the way, they don't list on Best Buy and on all the stuff, they don't list the RAM that's on board or anything like that. So we'll see how long it lasts with using the onboard Google TV before I switch to an external device. But so
I think it's a smart piece of advice. I think it's still it's just increasingly more difficult to find that mythical TV.
Nowadays. Yeah, well, and in this case, I chose like I had an opportunity, like we put Ethernet into the wall, and like I had an opportunity to have like a clean space with no wires versus having the right choice. But like on my TV, I've got the Google TV streamer, and it's just the dumb monitor that I'm hooking up stuff to. So it just it all depends on what the user case may be. So
yeah, for sure.
Yep.
Well, nothing to do. I think we've been firmly planted inside of Android 14, 15, 16 in many different ways for most of the show so far. So we're going in a different direction right now. We're going back to that topic that never disappoints, never lets us down. Apple RCS. Yes, that's right. A few people turned off the podcast right there. Apple's RCS development is improving. They actually just Apple didn't announce this, but apparently the folks at The Verge have started to notice that if you've used RCS from your Android phone chatting with an Apple device or vice versa, and you put like an emoji response to something, oftentimes you would still get that reaction that is like emoji to, and then in quotes, whatever the message was, that thing that you put, that your friend posted. It like spells it out. It attaches the emoji, but it doesn't actually put it with the message. And now there's a change that is hit that in both directions, that emoji hits where it's supposed to. So you'll probably start to see it appearing where it should appear. If you've been using RCS to RCS, you've been seeing this no problem. And same for iOS to iOS. But it's just the between the different OSs that this has still been coming back as like this malformed, not quite compatible thing, and RCS was supposed to fix it. And,
it's a reminder of the frustration. It's a reminder, right?
Yeah.
So
I mean, but it's not over yet though, because I don't know if you've noticed, but if you try to send, I forgot what Apple calls it, photo emoji. If you send photo emoji from an Android phone to an iPhone, that doesn't show up on their device as a reaction, but it does if you send it to other people on RCS. And if an Apple user sends a Genmoji to you, then that doesn't show up as a reaction on your end, because these are custom reactions.
Yeah,
they're
custom,
not like universally recognized on both platforms. So you're still gonna have a lot of random like images show up like detached from the message it's actually reacting to.
Yeah,
and I don't know if there's any way to fix that, to be honest.
Yeah, I don't know that there is either. Or again, we're in that position where maybe Google would be interested in fixing it, but Apple, I could see being like, no, that's our secret sauce.
Well, to be fair, both of them do it. Like Apple has, as I just mentioned, Genmoji. Google has photo emoji, and like I don't see that stopping anytime soon.
No,
keep adding more and more like custom emojis that there's no way for both platforms to recognize.
Nope. Yep. I don't think that's going to change. There will be incompatibilities. It's guaranteed to happen.
Yeah.
That's the way it is.
All right. Well, like I said earlier, I wanted to thank everybody over at patreon.com/AndroidFaithful for supporting the show. And every week, the patrons over at Patreon get to choose a news story for us to talk about here on the show. And want to first give a quick shout out and thanks to listener Terry Keller for kind of giving us an autumn-themed bug droid to go along with the patron pick, as we have a little bug droid frolicking in a pile of leaves, much like my daughter this past weekend as I attempted to rake the leaves and she jumped in them, and then she grabbed the leaf blower and blew them all back, not into a pile, and made me do a pile again so she could jump into them again, and we did that about 4 times. So
that's why it's fun.
Fun times indeed. But on to the stories that we had to choose from. We had 3 very, very interesting stories and a close race this week. The loser was the Samsung One UI might add AI notification summaries just like Apple Intelligence. That only got 26% of the vote. The second place story was emoji or monogram. Google Contacts will soon let you set creative contact pictures. It's got 29% of the vote. But the winner, with 45% of the vote, was the fact that the Pixel 9 Pro reportedly cost Google around $400 in materials to make. A little under the hood investigative journalism from 9 to 5 Google over as Ben Schoon, a friend of the show, wrote up the breakdown, which is actually leveraging data from Nikkei, that the bill of materials for the Pixel 9 Pro comes in at roughly $406, and that's shopping list. And for those of you who don't know about hardware or don't know how hardware is made, usually it's something called the BOM, or the bill of materials, where all the components and the pieces and things like that come together and figure out what the cost is for the manufacturer to actually make the device. And that usually then defines how much margin they want to make by selling it. It doesn't factor in marketing costs or distribution costs. This is purely just the cost of what it takes to build the phone itself. And Google's spending $406 per phone, and that includes $80 for the Tensor G4 chip, $75 for the M14 display panel made by Samsung, $61 for all the camera components, et cetera, et cetera. Now that might sound expensive, but in comparison, it's actually that bill of materials was 11% lower than the Pixel 8 Pro, and it's actually much lower based on the same report that says the bill of materials for the iPhone 16 Pro is $568. So interesting stuff. In terms of, actually what goes into making these devices and how they do it and all those components that they cost. And listen, I've, at my company Scorbit, we have a hardware device that we designed and built and had to get all the components and did the bill of materials and, determined that it's going to cost X amount of dollars. So we're going to charge Y amount of dollars and all that sort of stuff. And it is the name of the game is getting this thing to be as cheap as possible. Right. Mm-hmm. And so when, the difference of about $150 between the iPhone and the Pixel shows that Google's is really being cost conscious when trying to put these phones together and keep the high level of quality in place. Does this surprise you guys? Jason, do you think that the bill of materials would be higher or lower, or so?
I don't know. I mean, it's really hard for me to know exactly how I feel about this because I'm not familiar enough with how much it normally costs, other than kind of what you've cited here. So
yep.
I don't know. Like I know that there's often a pretty big markup on stuff, and actually sometimes there's surprisingly not as much of a markup as you might think. Things become more or less a loss leader. So I don't know that I'm necessarily surprised. I find it more interesting than anything. It doesn't confirm or deny anything in my head as far as that's concerned. I'm curious to know what you think, Mishaal. Like, do you have more of a sense of like how these stack up to previous phones?
No. It's not something I really keep up with.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna be honest. Yeah, I don't really keep up with, how much it costs to build a phone. I do see these reports every year, like for the flagship phones, year's bill of materials for X phone or Y phone. It is interesting, but it's not something that I personally keep up with.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thanks to 9 to 5 Google for reporting on that, and thanks to the patrons for voting on it. And I do want to thank our loyal patrons for supporting the show over at patreon.com/AndroidFaithful, specifically Alan Char, Kyle Brown, Mikhail Soder, Linda Fredden, and Tony Morrow. You guys are all awesome and my favorite people at this very moment in time because you help keep the lights on the show and keep everything running. And so we really appreciate you. So you can join in on the fun and get access to vote on the patron pick, get a sticker, maybe get a t-shirt. All depends on the level you want to get at. And you'll get advance access to our next t-shirt unveiling later this week, all at patreon.com/AndroidFaithful.
Booyah.
Woohoo.
Thank you all. All right, we've got a hardware showdown, a showcase showdown coming up between two Chromebook Pixels that walked into a bar, and one reigns supreme. I don't know where I'm going with this. That's coming up in a second. All right. Chromebook showdown.
Chromebook showdown, indeed. And in fact, I realize I failed to send you a link for this, Jason, that I wanted to show off. But a couple of weeks ago, over on AndroidFaithful.com, we handled all the we shared the news that there was new hardware and new features coming to the Chromebooks. That was back in October 1st. So literally a little more than a month ago. And part of that announcement when Google released those the new Gemini features to Chromebooks, was kind of celebrating the two new devices, specifically the Samsung Galaxy Chromebook Plus and the Lenovo Chromebook Duet 11-inch device. And so it's been about a month, and both Jason and I have gotten our hands on these devices, so we thought we would do a little hands-on review time for you and tell you the pros and the cons about each of these devices. And first up, I've got here the Lenovo Duet 11-inch. It's Gen 9 of this device, and I've heard so much about the Lenovo Duet being the kind of top of the line Chromebook / tablet 2-in-1 device, that this is probably like a lot of people I've spoken to have said this is the best 2-in-1 device out there. So I was like, okay, cool, let me check it out and see what it looks like. So with the device itself, what you've got is a tablet and a keyboard. All right. And it's a very easy to use, easy to open or close build quality of the keyboard and the screen itself. They are connected via a very powerful but also satisfying click magnet, right? So if I just want to use the Duet as a tablet, as I'm doing here, I can take the keyboard off, I can put it off to the side, and just use it as a tablet. Now, when you do that, it does switch into tablet mode. So you get all of the icons and all that stuff as you expect for it to be in tablet mode, but it is still operating with Chrome OS versus running Android as a tablet. When I snap back the keyboard / case, it then immediately switches into Chromebook mode, where I've got the taskbar along the bottom, and I'm able to use it as a laptop in and of itself as well. So really, kind of a nice kind of, best of both worlds kind of situation there. Obviously, it's got all of the features of, this is not a Chromebook Plus. So Jason, you're going to talk more about the features on the Chromebook Plus, but it's got all of the Chromebook features that that Google's been touting, and the recent releases, and the integration of Gemini and things like that. So I'm not really getting into the softer side of it, but from a device standpoint, the build quality on this is excellent. It does feel a little hefty. It does feel weighted. The tablet itself, the screen itself, is built with just really, really solid material, and it doesn't feel flimsy in any way, shape, or form, right? It feels, here, I'm going to take the back cover off as well here too. I'll take that. You feel the build on the back with this great, nice kind of metal background, and you got the camera set up right here. And when it's in total tablet mode, I kind of did a one-to-one feeling with my Pixel tablet. And while this is slightly smaller than the Pixel tablet, I like the way this felt. You could one-hand it, my old one-hander kind of test that I do with it. But then also it didn't feel like I was going to drop it or feel kind of slippery or slide out of it. One of the neat things that this one does have is the back panel of the kind of case that comes with it. It's got this triangle shaped easel side to it, so that what you're able to do is you're able to flip that out, and you can prop it up on your desk if you want to use it as a desktop, but it also works in portrait mode as well. So if you want to prop it up vertically, it's able to stand that way too, right? Which I think is really, really clever, and just shows a little bit of ingenuity there when designing the back panel with that easel in place. Now, that said, I really think it also works with the pen. I didn't get a pen. They didn't send me one, but a pen kind of clicks right here in the back, and it's able to, you're able to carry it with you very easily. That said, the real only kind of negative I can think about this is that it's a 2-in-1 tablet and/or laptop, but due to the nature of the design of this, it inherently does not work in your lap. because the problem is that there is no hinge keeping the display vertical or up in a standard laptop. So when you put it on your lap, the display just falls backwards, right? So you kind of need to either be on a flat surface where you're able to use that back kind of kickstand triangle easel mode of it, or take the keyboard off and use it as a tablet. That's the real only drawback I can see here. I could see an argument that the keyboard and the trackpad on the keyboard itself are small and somewhat a little cramped. I've got big fat fingers and I made a bunch of typos and things like that as I was trying to use it. But I feel like that's the kind of thing you get used to as you use it. The first time I used the MacBook Air, I was like, this is too small, and then I got used to it, right? But the biggest thing is that, this as a productivity device and as a 2-in-1, it checks off so many boxes. Back when, if you guys remember about a year ago, when I wanted to use my Pixel tablet as a productivity device, and I bought that Logitech keyboard and I was propping up the tablet in there. I stopped doing that because I was lugging around so much hardware with me. Whereas in this case, if I had this, I got everything I need. I got a keyboard in the case. I could prop it up. I could use it wherever I need to be on the go. It could be a real productivity device. And then if I want to use it as a media device for either reading books or reading comics or watching TV or playing games, it snaps right off and it can be that, right? So it truly, I kind of see the value of the two-in-one here. And I think a big part of it is just the really, really strong build quality and care Lenovo put into this to make this really feel like a top-of-the-line device. I mean, it doesn't make it feel like a top-of-the-line device. It is a top-of-the-line device. And that said, the price doesn't break the bank either. They've got a 4 gig RAM with 64 gig storage option at $340, and they've got an 8 gig of RAM with 128 gig of storage option for $399. And inside of it is the MediaTek Compagno 838. Which, they said was, specifically optimized for Chromebooks. I didn't notice any problem with the processor. I watched full motion video. I played games. I tried to do everything that I do with my tablet or my laptop, falling short of editing video or editing audio or anything like that. And it worked like a charm. It was snappy and it worked great. So all in all, I give this, a very high rating, a very strong 2 thumbs up. The only real complaint is that using it as a laptop on the go, you need a Surface to work with it. That's my only kind of drawback there. So
yeah, it doesn't quite prop up that display for
exactly.
you.
And when the keyboard and back panel or when it's all like this, it is a little heavy. I could see that kind of complaint, but it's still lighter than my laptop. So as far as I'm concerned, that's a win. So,
I mean, it's more of if you think of it, it's a tablet with a keyboard attachment.
Right.
It's not a laptop.
Right.
So if you think of it like that, then you can excuse the fact that it flops over, if you don't have the kickstand propped up. But it's the same problem you'll have with Surface Pros, with Android tablets. They're different form factor entirely. They're just mimicking what a laptop is like.
Yeah. So I kind of want to take it on a trip and see if I can use it. I mean, I know I could use it, but I kind of want to give it like that road test. This is all kind of in my home kind of environment. But I think it could satisfy as a laptop replacement for on the go to keep productivity moving while keeping the tablet experience intact, which is nice. And that's what you want out of a 2-in-1. So
indeed.
Cool.
Nice.
So that I'm going to knock the ball over to your court, Jason. Let's tell us about the Samsung Galaxy Chromebook Plus.
All right, gotta crack my knuckles and get ready. So the Samsung Galaxy Chromebook Plus for 2024 is definitely, I'd say they're marketing this as kind of a step up from what you're talking about. It's also not in the same category. It's not a convertible. It is a true laptop, and I apologize because my overhead camera cannot zoom out any further. It's a large laptop. It's a 15.6 inch AMOLED display on the inside. So this is a pretty sizable display, so big that I can't show it entirely on the camera. So
that's too funny. You can't pull back enough.
I just can't pull back enough. I wish I had like another camera in here that I had set up. But as you can see, it has a really nice kind of like blue metallic. They call it Neptune blue color. and it's, kind of got a shiny metallic quality to it. It is a very pretty laptop, and I will say, one of the things that really stands out, I've got next to it, this is my Pixel 9 Pro, and I mean it's almost flush with the top of this laptop with the case on. That's how thin the laptop is. I mean the display itself. I'll see if I can even try and show you this. I mean it is super narrow. It's almost razor thin. You'd think that it would flex and feel kind of vulnerable. It feels pretty sturdy, but I mean, it is a very thin panel, but it's very striking from that regard. It's also really lightweight. It's 2.5 pounds in total for the entire laptop. So very thin, very light, 8 gigs of RAM inside, 256 gigs of storage, Intel Core 3 processor. This comes in at $699, so $700 for the laptop. So when you're talking about Chrome OS, that's just going to be more expensive than some people are willing to pay. I don't know if my autofocus is kicking in there. $700 for a Chrome OS, laptop. So I consider this kind of venturing into some, closer to the premium level. It's not quite Pixelbook where it was, post $1,000 for the laptop, but it is getting up there when you compare it to the majority, I'd say, of Chromebooks that you do see out in the wild. $700 is a lot. And, it's not a convertible, like I said. So, it is kind of your standard approach. You've got a couple of different ports here. You've got a USB-A port. You've got your headphone. I think that's a memory card slot, although I didn't test it. Sorry, I'm trying to balance all this stuff. And then you've got a couple of USB-C ports on the other side. I do kind of wish that there was another USB-C port on the other side, because depending on where you're sitting, if you want to plug in and work, it's kind of inconvenient to have to loop it around to this single side. And then you have a little HDMI port there as well, so you can route your HDMI out to a bigger monitor if you want. Build quality wise, I'd say this thing is really nice. It's one of the standouts. The display is beautiful. Again, kind of hard to show off when I've got a display this big, but it is an AMOLED. It's a 1920 by 1080, which it is nice for the most part, but to my eyes, I start to see it's just 1080p display. And I think, again, when we're talking about kind of like a premium laptop, and in this case, a Chromebook, I think my eyes would prefer a little bit higher density, pixel density than what we're getting on here. But all things considered, it looks pretty solid. It's just, I'm seeing a little bit of those pixels, and I wish that I wasn't. But and as you can see from the keyboard, that's important to show too. So the keyboard has the numeric keypad on the side. So that's going to make people who really like having a numeric keypad happy. You can see, in contrast with your the one that you showed off, the touchpad is gigantic on this thing. It's like half the palm pad is a touchpad. So that's really nice. I'd say that my one kind of ding on this is I do like having a numeric keypad, but it offsets everything in a way that I'm still getting used to. Everything is kind of shuffled over to the side, and actually the touchpad doesn't really center up with the keyboard, which I get. The touchpad is usually centered with the laptop itself, although it's not here. It's a little bit off to the side. Not enough, though, to where it really kind of centers out the keyboard itself. So I find myself all the time, and there's no real differentiation between what you have over here in the numeric keypad and the rest of the keyboard. So often I'd be thinking that I'm hitting the backspace and I'm actually hitting like one key over, and there's no easy way for your finger to know that unless you just recognize that you're doing it, look down or whatever. And again, like you said, Ron, I'm sure that you'd get used to that over more time. But I've been using this for a while, and I'm still doing it. What were you gonna say?
I have to ask, because I have the same problem with the laptop I'm reviewing that I'm not showing off right now. It also has a full size numpad on the side and an off center touchpad, and that also bothers me. I've been using it for a few weeks, but I have to know, this has also happened to you. Do you find yourself accidentally grazing the touchpad with your palm? Like when you're typing something, it just randomly makes the cursor jump, and like when you're typing something, you move like a couple lines forward?
I didn't notice that on this laptop.
Okay, because that drives me nuts.
Yeah, and maybe that has, maybe that says something about palm rejection on this touchpad versus the one that you're using. I'm not sure. I didn't encounter that as a headache in my use, thankfully, because I have experienced that before, but not on this laptop, thankfully. So, what else is there to say about this? Definitely, I need to point out. Let's see here. Sorry, I'm trying to skip between things here. This button right here over on the caps lock. So this is definitely one of the features that is new on this laptop specifically. This is called the quick insert key. And essentially this is embedded into the Chrome OS. I think this is the first laptop, first Chromebook to have that feature. And when you tap that, it pulls up. I don't know if it's going to show it where I happen to be at. Yeah, I'm sorry. My positioning is not ideal here, but essentially it pulls up this little window wherever your cursor happens to be. And like right now, it's got some links to some images that are saved onto the hard drive. It's got a link to, a YouTube Studio link for managing, so it's tapping into kind of browser destinations. It's got my rundown. It also has, if I'm like in a text document or in a Word document or whatever, editing something in Google Drive, it will have help me write appear there. So it's kind of this single button that you hit to pull up this multifunction universe and a lot of like AI functionality. Eventually you'll be able to generate images by tapping that button and just saying, I need an image that does this, and it'll give it to you. And so that's flexible, but I can see, it's probably going to be the kind of thing that gets better over time. Definitely one of my complaints is this is not a touch screen. It's just a regular display. And I think with Chromebooks, I'm very used to having a touch screen. So I'm bummed to not have it on here. It does mean that certain games, it has the Play Store, of course, but certain games you're going to install on here, you're not going to be able to play because you can't use the touchscreen on the laptops. And, again, that kind of gets to, I think, my general criticism of this laptop is that it is an expensive Chromebook. And I don't have a problem with expensive Chromebooks. I loved my Pixelbook for so long, and it was really an expensive Chromebook. But I want it to do all the things, and this doesn't do all the things. I think the missing a touch screen is a big miss for me in the realm of Chrome OS. It's one of the things I really love about Chrome OS is that I can reach up there from time to time and interact with my fingers. And it's $700. Why doesn't it? It should, and I don't know why it doesn't. It also doesn't have,
especially when there are models that are lesser in price that have that.
Yeah, totally.
Right? The Lenovo has it. Like it's a touchscreen and it's $300 less, right? So
I see the touchscreen on a Chromebook to be kind of like, for me, I consider it table stakes. And when you're talking about a verging on a premium device, I feel like that has to be there. It also doesn't have biometric, which I understand. Smart lock. If you've got your phone, it unlocks the device and everything. But there were a few times where I didn't, and it was just. Like, again, it's like it's a $700 device. It'd be nice to have that in there. But maybe I can't judge it too harshly on that because it does have the smart lock feature, which essentially keeps it unlocked if my phone is near and connected via Bluetooth. But overall, I mean, it's a nice laptop. And, it has, of course, it has some of the other AI features that Google is doing with, a lot of Gemini integration and help me write, of course, but all sorts of other things kind of integrated into it, like live translate. There's an AI-powered audio recorder app on there. And if you get this, you do get 12 months of free access to Gemini Advanced through Google One AI Premium. So you get that as a bonus, which is a nice one as well. But so I think I'm kind of mixed on this one. It's like $700. Would I pay $700 for this? I don't know. I think there's a couple of things that would prevent me from doing that. But it is a nice Chromebook, So I think that's where I'm at with it.
I mean, and also if you're if you're in the Samsung ecosystem and you're the Samsung user, is there value to having the Samsung Chromebook alongside your Samsung phone?
I mean, that's a really good question. I didn't see anything in this Chromebook that was specific to Samsung devices. Doesn't mean they weren't in there, but I certainly didn't come across them. I didn't, you know what I mean? Like, I could see that if there were obvious ecosystem integrations, but it's a Chromebook.
Yeah.
It's not an Android OS, manufactured by Samsung. Right. Chrome OS is pretty standard. Yeah. So yeah, maybe if that exists, and maybe it does, and I just didn't see it. But
on their Windows laptops, actually, the Samsung Windows laptops, they have this suite of apps that allows you to do a whole bunch of cross-device stuff. So I'm kind of surprised they don't have anything similar on Chromebooks. Maybe it's not even possible for them to do. But I mean,
maybe
that would have been nice to have.
Yeah,
because there's so much Samsung phones have so many cross-device continuity-esque features of their own. But it seems like you need a Samsung Windows laptop to take advantage of those.
I'm looking through the kind of apps right now, just real quick, and there's Adobe Express on here. There's a gallery app. There's a screencast app. I mean, there's a few apps that are Samsung specific camera app, but nothing that goes really too deep in what you're talking about. That kind of cross-device stuff.
Yeah, on the Samsung laptop that I'm reviewing, they have this whole One UI hub of 20 different apps that you can cast phone calls, you can have your text messages show up. It's much more in depth than what you get through just the regular phone link experience.
Yeah. Interesting. So there you go. That's the Chromebook Galaxy. Sorry, the Samsung Galaxy Chromebook Plus for 2024.
Cool.
Yeah.
All right, so that's a lot of Chromebooks.
That is.
So I know we're going to be taking both of these and writing them up and put them on AndroidFaithful.com later in the week, so you can just kind of see some more written thoughts and stuff like that. But as you help inform your decisions, if you're looking to buy your next laptop, things to consider, what you may or may not want out of it. So, very cool.
You know what else is very cool?
What?
The latest slate of Snapdragon 8 Elite smartphones that have been announced and launched in China, starting with the Realme GT7 Pro. So this is one of the first Snapdragon 8 Elite smartphones carrying an IP69 rating, which again, I did not know that was a thing until we saw it with the OnePlus 13 announced in China, and now apparently the Realme GT7 Pro also has an IP69 rating. And it also has a really bright display, which is set to reach a peak brightness of 6,000 nits. Although I will caveat that these absurdly high peak brightness numbers are referring to having 1% of the display lit up instead of 80% of the display. So the actual usable day-to-day peak brightness. Yes, this is one of those marketing things, and everyone is doing
totally
it.
a marketing.
So I can't say this is just a Realme thing, but that's a caveat to keep in mind. In any case, there are a lot of really impressive specs on this device, including a 6.78-inch Eco 2 OLED Plus display, which is apparently manufactured by Samsung, a really low power consumption display, and it has a 50-megapixel main camera with OIS and a Sony IMX906 sensor, joined by a 50-megapixel telephoto camera, Sony IMX882 sensor, and also a third ultra-wide angle camera, the same one from the Realme GT5 Pro. And then also, because it's IP69 rated, Realme apparently developed a dedicated underwater photography mode, so you can use it underwater. I don't know if you need a dedicated case for that, or if you can just take the phone underwater with you. I don't think anyone would probably... I would definitely not do that, even if it is IP69 rated. I'm not tempting fate.
You could probably take it underwater with a certain amount of depth, but don't be in water for too long. It's funny.
You're not going scuba diving with this phone.
It was funny because I was literally yesterday. I was with my daughter. There's a pond in our neighborhood, and she was throwing rocks in the pond, and I was just watching her do that. I'm like, what if she falls in? And I was like, what do I do? I'm like, I got to jump in and get her out, right? But do I take my phone out and drop it? And then do I just, the fact that I was thinking about what I'm doing with my phone before I save my daughter from drowning really makes me worry about things. Because I was standing on a sidewalk. I'm like, well, if I throw my phone, if in one motion I see I need to save her, I'm going to throw my phone out of my pocket, throw it down on the ground. I'm probably going to throw it on pavement and break the phone. So am I better off just jumping in with the phone in my pocket and worrying about it getting wet?
Real problems.
Luckily, she did not fall into the pond and everything was fine. So
You'll never know what you actually would have done.
I know. I don't want to know. It's not a scenario I want to figure out. And I pray to God my wife is not watching or listening.
So a couple more details on the Realme GT7 Pro. It has a huge 6,500 milliamp hour battery phone. Sorry, 6,500 milliamp hour cell, which is massive. It's the most on a Realme phone ever, and I think like you don't find batteries like that on slab phones going back a couple of years. Like maybe only 7-inch phones or mini tablets have that kind of battery size. I love this trend of having bigger batteries.
Indeed.
You also have super fast charging, 120 watts super VOOC charging over the wire. It's not as fast as some previous Realme devices, but still incredibly fast by standards of phones sold in North America. And the device comes with configurations including 12 gigabytes of RAM, 256 gigabytes of storage, starting at about 505 equivalent US dollars. Although, of course, when this phone launches internationally, it probably will cost more because you can never convert one-to-one the price of a device sold in China with the international price. So we don't know what it'll cost, but hopefully it'll launch later this month, according to GSM Arena. But probably not North America, because Realme phones tend to not launch in North America.
Yep. All right. And then lastly, is there more with Realme or
not more with Realme, but more with the phone, with a chip that's powering this phone, the Snapdragon 8 Elite. So early benchmarks have shown, although they've been updated first, like we had benchmarks done by Digital Trends and Android Authority that showed that they were unable to complete the 3D Mark benchmark because they ran too hot. Although it was later found to be because there was a software bug that Realme has pushed out to fix, allowing them to complete this benchmark. So, there's been a lot of debate about, do the phones with the Snapdragon 8 Elite actually live up to Qualcomm's performance benchmarks they touted at Snapdragon Summit? And something I kind of wanted to talk about actually is, Jason, I posted a link in the private chat. People talk about benchmarks all the time. I don't think it's really fun or interesting to talk about benchmarks personally. So I like to talk about real world use cases. And something that I noticed, like out of China, people have been they've been actually running AAA games, I guess like from the past couple of years, not like 2024 high-end games, but like actual high-end PC games natively on Snapdragon 8 Elite phones. And if you're wondering, are these legit? Well, the thing is, like, if you've been following the emulation scene on Android for a while, there have been a couple of developments over the past couple of years where people have figured out how to handle the translation of these x86, x64 PC games much better and more performantly on these ARM devices. So that you've had these projects called like WinLater, which is a tool you can download to run and emulate these PC games on your Android device. It's gone through a couple of iterations and it's been getting better and better and better. And the only problem that I found is that they were kind of a pain in the rear to set up. But it looks like companies like Realme and a game controller company that we've talked about before called GameSir are working on tools that make it easier to set this whole thing up. So these tools haven't been released yet, but it looks like you'll soon be able to run games like this natively on your Android phone with pretty decent performance. Like this video that Jason is playing right now on stream shows a GT7 Pro with the 8 Elite. It's running a recent Assassin's Creed game. I don't know which one is showing off the top of my head. To be honest, I haven't played any of these Assassin's Creed games in a long, long time. So, but like the performance is pretty incredible.
That's impressive.
Right? Like Qualcomm has really done a great job in boosting the raw performance of the Snapdragon 8 Elite. But the problem for a long time is that there haven't been really any decent Android games in terms of what can actually push the raw performance of the chipset. But through emulation, you have these really demanding games that are able to run on device and actually push really hard the 8 Elite and other chipsets.
That's really impressive. You know what ran through my mind though when I was watching him play that game? It just reminded me of Stadia.
Yes.
And
poor
I realize they're totally different scenarios. One is streaming from the cloud, the other is actually happening on device. But still, I had a flashback, Stadia flashback.
Indeed. All right. And then finally, last in hardware, Android authorities info dump from the leak from the G-Chip division over in Google continues to yield glean interesting information. But apparently, according to Google's own internal analysis, the tensor-based, quote-unquote, the tensor-based Pixel programs have not met its financial targets. Therefore, the Google Tensor G6 focus has been on lowering the price of the chip. Goes back to that bill of materials article we were talking about in the patron pick, as well as making it run cooler and more efficiently. So therefore, in the Tensor G6, the GPU is going to lose ray tracing abilities, but the CPU gets a slight upgrade. We talked about this a couple of weeks ago as well, also as we were talking about these, this leak and what we get out of it. But it's funny because this Android Authority, one of the subheads was, of course, it's all about the money, right? But of course, it's all about the money. They're a business, right? I don't blame them for doing that. They've got to find the balance of what is the right chip to make at the right cost. And that moves the specs and moves the performance of the phone forward while being cost conscious, right? So I don't blame Google at all for doing this analysis or making these adjustments. It's called running a business, right? So, but it's interesting to see kind of under the hood as how they, what they prioritize and what they're doing to accommodate or deny those, kind of those needs, those trade backs and things like that they might make. So.
Ron, I think you skipped over the biggest revelation from this article and the one that got reblogged by so many people all over.
Oh, I'm sorry, I missed that.
There's this one line in the article that shows that that overheating was the leading cause of returns of the original series of tensor-based pixels.
Yeah,
28% of customer complaints being about thermals. Does that surprise you at all?
I don't know.
It doesn't for me. I have personally heard from relatives who got the Tensor G6 Pixel, and also my own experience. That was the reason why I gave up my Pixel 6 Pro as a daily driver. I was just fed up with how often
wasn't
they're
doing
overheating.
crazy stuff with my phone. I really didn't experience that much.
Okay, I live in an area where it gets very, very hot.
Okay, well, fair.
Really, really hot.
That's a good point. Yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah.
And the phone could not handle the heat.
Yeah.
So it would just restart on you at that point?
It would just shut off.
Shut down.
It would just it would just say, the phone is getting too hot, limiting what apps you can run.
Yeah.
I mean, I would get that with the Pixels if I was navigating somewhere and I had it mounted in the window, but I just kind of assumed it's mounted in the window. There's the sun's bearing down on it for 2 hours. Of course it's going to get really hot, but maybe it has something to do with the phone because other phones are resilient to that. So it's good.
I mean, all phones have the problem.
That.
That can happen to all phones, but it seems it was especially prevalent with the original batch of Tensor G1 and I think Tensor G2 as well. And even Google's own data, according to Android Authority, showed this to be true.
Yeah.
That it was the thermals were the number one reason for pixel returns, at least for the original generations.
Yeah. That is interesting.
And they showed a graphic on that article that showed, that thermal's the number one reason.
Interesting. There it is. Yeah.
Which they've apparently fixed. They've apparently done a really good job with the G8.
They've listened to the data. They've listened to the response they've gotten and made an adjustment. So yeah. Well, cool.
There you go.
Number one reason for pixel returns. There it is. All right. Well, thank you for the correction there, Mishaal. So cool.
I just wanted to point it out because
Fair
I think
enough.
that was the most interesting part of the article.
Fair. All right. With that, let's get into apps. A couple apps.
Yeah. Cruise through some apps here. Just real quick, some Gemini advancements happening. Google app is getting the utilities extension, and this was teased at I/O, so Google's finally delivering on some promises that it made at Google I/O earlier this year. And this is to control your Android mobile device and apps, quote. So doing things like managing your alarms, your timers, opening apps, controlling your media, doing all sorts of taking photos, screenshots, interacting with Pixel screenshots, if that's an app that you use. They baked that in there apparently. Opening apps, opening sites, settings, all of this stuff so that you're not doing a kind of a, they're essentially closing the gap between Gemini and Assistant. We're seeing more and more of that at this time. English only for the moment, rolling out in stages. So if you don't have that yet, you will get it soon. But there are a lot of features coming to this as a result of this update. So, and I think big things, but again, it goes back to syntax. With Assistant, you kind of had to know exactly how to ask. And here with Gemini, it's a little bit more fluid as far as how the conversational flow goes. It can infer what you're asking for. You can combine commands. So you could, couple 2 or 3 commands in a single voice command that you give, and it will know how to kind of manage all of those, or should know how to manage all of those. So that'll be interesting. Super curious to play around with that. But the Gemini party does not end there. Google Home's Gemini extension is rolling out more widely. Actually got an email about this. Available this week. This replaces the Assistant fallback for that. So things like controlling your smart home, your lights, your switches, thermostats, all that kind of stuff, instead of having to route once again through Assistant as kind of like a workaround. This is kind of being baked into Gemini, getting closer and closer to the point to where Assistant is phased out and Gemini just does all the things that Assistant used to do. So we're getting closer on that. And then finally, a new Gemini UI overlay in the works, might be coming. Don't know for sure, but the fine folks at Android Authority have cracked open the Google app APK and been able to show off that the Gemini interface as it is right now, if you've ever called it, it's like a big white bar that comes over the bottom third of your screen, let's say, and it covers all the stuff that's behind it. Well, what they are testing is this kind of broken, kind of pilled approach where you've got your smaller bar, which is kind of the interaction bar, and then you've got a few other kind of pills that give you the ability to launch certain actions like summarize or suggesting similar videos if you happen to be in the YouTube app or whatever the case may be. So seems like they're trying to kind of make it, compress things a little bit from a visual perspective so that you're not covering up everything and you can still see what you're interacting with as you're calling Gemini into action. So Gemini just keeps on trucking, whether you like it or not.
I mean, it's got to, right? It's got to. If if it's the assistant replacement and the AI savior, it's got to be everything and more, right? And so
right. Yeah. So good stuff there.
All right.
Speaking of Gemini, it looks like Google is working on some new Gemini AI powered features for the Google Phone app. So for those of you familiar with the set of Pixel exclusive features in the phone app, including call screen. Actually, I don't think that's fully. Sorry, call screen is exclusive to Pixel phones.
Yes,
from what I know. Yeah. And this feature, when you screen a call, you can see what's being said. It transcribes what's being said, and then you have this little bar of replies you can send, and then it'll like speak out that reply. Well, like these generated replies that it suggests right now are all pre-canned. So like you can have it say things like, "Oh, I'll be right there," or "Leave by front door," or "Tell me more." And none of those are really like that smart or contextual based on what the person who's calling is actually saying. So it looks like Google's working on infusing those replies with some generative AI. So this new AI replies feature, as discovered by Assemble Debug on X, suggests that Call Assist will use Gemini Nano possibly on device to generate smart replies based on whatever the person is saying on the phone call. And actually, it doesn't confirm that it's going to use Gemini Nano, but I would be surprised if it doesn't, considering this is based on your phone call audio. And I would imagine you want that to not be uploaded to the cloud and analyzed. I would assume it's going to be like the same deal with call notes. That's being analyzed on device on a Pixel 9 Pro through the Gemini Nano with multimodality model. So I'm guessing something similar will be happening with the call screen audio being analyzed by Gemini Nano to generate these responses for you to send.
Fascinating. All I know is that every time I use the call screen function, it's how I can guarantee the person will hang up. I don't think I've ever had anyone interact with it at all. Like it's so it's we'll see if AI can solve that.
Yeah, it's just not worth it to me to even use it. Because it's more work than I'm willing to put into a call.
Right, like I've got to sit there and wait for the I've got to see what the results are and then tell them.
Totally. I appreciate that it exists, but I've tried to use it a handful of times. I'm just like, honestly, if I don't recognize the number, I'm not going to answer it. At this point, I just
don't answer the phone at all, even if I recognize the number 9 times out of 10. I mean, like Jason Mishaal, if you call me, I'll answer. But like, I'm like, oh, I don't want to talk to that person. I'll let it go to voicemail. And so sometimes I like to screw people by doing the call screen to see if they'll play with it. But yeah. So honestly, the number of spam calls and robocall, like it's made the phone almost useless in that regard. So
totally agree.
It's sad. So.
Totally agree.
All right, well, let's go wrap it up for apps. But we love hearing from you, the audience, our friends. And so we're going to do some of that in a moment after this.
Heck yes. Contact at androidfaithful.com. Feedback is back, baby. Because I feel like, there for a while we weren't getting to very much feedback. And now we've got a lot. Let's start off with Dave from our Patreon. Thank you for Dave for being with us and sending us some feedback. Dave says, hello, everyone at Android Faithful. I wanted to raise a question that I don't know of any names raised before or anyone has raised before or even noticed. It's actually quite subtle, but seems to be happening more and more often. When I download a game that has adverts, the crosses to come out of the adverts almost always bring you now into the Play Store page to download the app. It doesn't return you to the game. Not sure if this is expected, just me, allowed, or even legal, but it does seem very dirty and underhanded, making it harder and harder to come out of the adverts. Some adverts now have multiple stages. They show the animation that wants you to interact with it. Then the cross takes you to the page to say where to download the app despite the cross. Then click on the cross. On this page, it takes you to the Play Store, and then you have to go back to get back into the game. Please tell me I'm not the only person experiencing this. Dave, you are not the only person experiencing this.
Sure.
It's a nightmare. And I know that Google has pushed out updates in recent years to attempt to clean up this sort of ad behavior. And I think that they have. I think it used to be worse. But it always feels slimy and tricky because the X will get really small and it will change. You don't know which corner. You got to wait for it to reveal itself. It's just, but at the same time, it's like the ad's paying for the free app or the free game that you're playing. So, got to pay the bills, but it does feel slimy. And sometimes you think, this was an issue that I thought that Google had specifically addressed in the past, but I still run into it, is that they make the X target either so small or do something with the touch targeting to make it so that even if you're touching it, you got to touch it exactly right. Otherwise, it does exactly what you're talking about. It takes you to the Play Store. And, oh, God, I just hate it. It sucks.
Yeah, they make it so like every single pixel except for this really tiny X will take you to the page.
Yes.
And if you even click a single pixel outside of that X, you go to the Play Store page.
Yeah. Yeah, it's stupid. I hate it.
Not good. But I don't they've created this sandbox to play in. I don't know how they can get out of that, So we'll see. But Dave, you're not the only one.
Just don't be slimy about it. If it's an X thing, you know what I mean? I think you're spot on, Mishaal. It's almost like the overlay on the game is, a row of black pixels that form the letter X. And if you're not exactly on a black pixel, then you're tapping on the game that is behind it or whatever, the ad that's behind it, and it takes you to the Play Store. Google, just make it mandatory that's a solid color or whatever. That whole area is a touch point for Xing it out. Just make that change. Like, it doesn't have to be that complicated.
Yeah. True.
But anyways, soapbox.
Mishaal, you got the next email.
Yeah. You know what else shouldn't be complicated? Being able to flip photos in Google Photos. So we got an email from Andy, who wrote in to say, "Hi all to the Android faithful. Does anyone know what happened to the horizontal flip editing feature in Google Photos? That thing where one can create a mirror image of a photo? It was announced a few weeks ago, and I did use it a few times, but now I don't seem to have it anymore. I swear it was in the crop options under the edit menu. I'm running Android 15 on a Pixel 9 Pro Fold, by the way. It's a niche thing, I guess, but I found it useful. Maybe I missed the memo about this somewhere or dreamt the whole thing. Keep up the good work, Andy, Melbourne, Australia." So I was actually gonna in between trying to find a time and see am I tripping too? Did they remove this? Because I know for sure. I don't think Google announced this. It's just people found it. I found it myself, and now I'm really curious. Did they remove this? I have to check. I'm gonna.
You're talking about on the phone, not on the browser, right?
In the Google Photos app, it's an option. I think under the crop.
Edit, crop.
Yeah, I don't see.
I have auto. I can change the size. I can rotate.
Hold on. I'm gonna find my own post about this.
Yeah, I don't have it.
Let me see. Horizontal.
Nope, I don't have it.
I don't have it either.
Yeah, it's gone.
Why is it gone?
Well, you're
Good
saying
question.
it was never announced to begin with?
I don't think it was announced. It's just that we noticed it rolled out.
Yeah. Maybe it was just tested, and I do want that because
I do have. Hold on, let me. I can show you.
Because that's a cool Photoshop-y kind of thing that you can do, right? Yeah.
Well, I mean, I think the thing that comes to mind for me as far as when that would be useful is often with cameras on phones. If you take a selfie. It does a mirror image of it, and all the text in the image is backwards.
Okay, here. Open this link quick, James. Jason, I just posted it.
What? Oh, okay.
In the private group.
Yeah.
Yes, 100%. It was there. It was rolled out a few weeks ago.
All right. So where is it?
On September 16th. That's when I posted about it. So yeah, there was a button for sure. I don't think Google announced it, but if you click on the images, there was a button.
Oh, this one.
Button that I highlighted.
Oh yeah, so
that's missing for me right now.
Under crop to the right of the rotate icon was a little it was a rectangle with a line in the middle with a dotted line on the right side, and I do not have that on my phone.
Yeah, it's gone from me.
Yeah, I
too.
didn't have it either.
Yeah.
Huh.
I wonder.
Google and your server-side updates.
We should ask Google what was. Let's Mishaal tomorrow. Let's ask them what's going on with that.
This is classic Google and AP updates.
Yeah. All right. Well, confirm that it was out there and that we don't have it anymore. So Andy, we're on the case. We're gonna find out about that. We're gonna see what we can find. So, all right.
If Google plays ball.
Buckle up. Our last email is a long one, but I think it'll be fun to go through. So this comes from, scroll all the way down. Mike from Rochester, New York says, "Hey, Android Faithful team. I've been a longtime listener since 2013 during the AAA days. I appreciate that you're continuing to bring people great Android news and product reviews every week. Thank you for continuing to do the show." You are welcome, Mike. We're glad. Thank you for being here with us.
We're here for you.
Yeah, exactly. So Mike says, "I've been using Textra as my SMS app for almost a decade, and I absolutely love the level of customization that it provides me. But ever since iOS 18 has supported RCS, I've been trying to use Google Messages. My girlfriend uses an iPhone, and I like that Messages allows us to have better messaging experience, like sharing high-quality images and showing the typing indicator, so I know that I should maybe hold what I'm about to say until I see what she's typing so I can change my response if necessary. However, there are a few customization features that Textra has that keep drawing me back to it. I'm still new to using Messages, so maybe it does offer some of the features that I miss about Textra, and I just don't know about them. I'm hoping the experts at Android Faithful can help me enjoy my Google Messages experience more and take away my reasons for going back to Textra. I used Textra years ago, and I totally forgot it exists. So I'm fascinated by this. So Mike says the customizations that he loves with Textra are, and we're going to go through these one by one, right? So we'll see, and then we'll hear from Mike, and then we'll weigh in on whether or not you can do that in Google Messages or not. So the first one is the ability to customize colors for individual contacts. He says, "I know that Google Messages gives me limited options to change the color of message bubbles, but it seems like it only changes the colors for me. Textra allows me to change the colors of my text bubbles and the bubbles of the other person. This comes in really handy with group messages where I can quickly glance at a received message and know immediately who sent it just by the bubble color. It saves a lot of time and confusing trying to figure out who sent what message. Can Google Messages do this?
No.
No, it cannot, because I've tried to do that.
No, definitely can't.
Yeah, which is frustrating, right? You can change
sure
the.
You can't.
Yeah, bubbles. Yeah,
bubbles. No, I don't think you can.
I don't think you can.
I'm not seeing where you could.
I don't see it. And if we're wrong, please, people get in touch with us and tell us. But I don't see any way to change the color of a person or of a conversation. So, point to Textra. Next, notification reminders. This is a huge feature for me. Textra lets me choose if I have an unread text notification to repeat after 2 minutes. They even let me choose if I want the notification to repeat once, twice, 10 times, all the way up to 50 times if it's not opened. I love this feature. I have my notification set to remind me twice, which is great if I leave my phone in the living room while I run to the kitchen for something and get a message but don't hear it. The reminder will let me know that I have a message when I get back near my phone, and it keeps me from checking my phone more than necessary just to see if I missed the message. I know Messages has a nudge feature, but I've yet to have that feature work for me and remind me of an unseen message. So Messages doesn't have this. You have the ability to, if you go to a message, you can set a reminder to be reminded of it, but that requires you to interact with the message. For me, I've never needed a notification reminder. If I miss a notification, I just go into the notification history and find it. But
God, I never go into notification history.
I go notification history all the time because I spend my majority of my life swiping away notifications because I want to have an empty. It's the inbox zero of my phone. But then I'm like, I'll swipe something. I'm like, oh wait, I wanted that, so I'll go back to the history to go get it, to go find the link or whatever it was. But yeah, and the nudge feature on Messages doesn't happen in a notification. It happens within the app where it's like, do you want to reply to this? And I've had that show up. I've seen that show up less and less, though, to be honest. But All right. And then last is custom notification icons. Textra has multiple notification icons that I can choose for all my messages by default and individual contacts. I have custom icons for a few of my friends, my parents, and my girlfriend, so I can know right away if one of them messaged me just by looking at the icon without even having to pull down the notification shade. And that's a big no on this one.
No, but you know what? Messages used to have that.
Yep.
Remember, you used to be able to prioritize certain conversations, which I think actually you still can, and that pushes them into a bubble, right?
Yeah.
But it used to have it to where it would pop their avatar up in the notification shade,
right?
If you had prioritized them.
Yeah. And the thing
I don't
is,
think you can do that anymore.
And the thing is, in Messages, like in the messages itself, if you have a photo associated with a contact, you can see that photo, but that icon doesn't show up in the notification itself.
No.
Right? So, yeah.
No, I see what you mean. Yeah.
So Mike says, does Google Messages offer anything like these features? No, they don't. He says, some of these things might seem silly or unnecessary, but they really help my texting experience feel the way I want it to and make messaging easier and more fun. I really want to use Messages for the RCS features, but that alone might not be enough to keep me from going back to my beloved Textra. Thank you for your time and great work that you all do. Sincerely, Mike from Rochester. P.S. As a Mets fan, I'm bummed they got knocked out of the playoffs, but at least the Yankees lost. Let's go Mets. Yes, Mike, I'm with you there. And here's the thing, is like, Textra exists because they're just making an app to make texting great. And Google Messages exists as a piece of the puzzle for all of Google, so they're not putting in the care and the specificity, I can't say that word, that Textra's putting into it. I think the answer here is Textra needs to add RCS support. Right?
They can't.
I know, but I'm just saying, like, if they were able to, then that would be a good solution, right?
I mean, for sure, that would certainly help on a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
Why is that not possible?
It's because Google doesn't want to. Google doesn't want to open up. Google does basically, the RCS that we have in Google Messages is not RCS. Basically, it's Google's chat client built on top of RCS.
Yeah.
And I guess like the main reason Google doesn't want third-party clients is you kind of open the door for, yes, there's spam in RCS already, but if you open up third-party clients, you're going to have a lot more of that. And I think that's probably the reason why they haven't really opened up an API for third-party apps to send messages through their network. Mm-hmm. I'm just spitballing here. I think that's the reason why. Yeah, I think they could have done it a long time ago if they wanted to, and I think that's why they haven't.
Yeah.
Well, that's dumb. They need to open it up. That's what I think.
Possibly. I don't know.
Maybe someday.
Someday we'll see. Textra was pretty cool back in the day, if I remember correctly. But there's something about the uniformity of Google Messages that became an attraction, and now the RCS. I literally one of my friends was at Disney World, and he's on an iPhone, and he sent me a picture, and he's like full res, like he was so excited. He was sending me non-pixelated photos. So like I definitely had that RCS moment, like where it was nice to see that happen. So
yeah.
All right, well, that's going to wrap it up for this week's show. A quiet week in the world of Android as far as quiet weeks go. All right, Jason, why don't you tell us what you've been up to over on the Texploder?
Over on the Texploder. Well, youtube.com/@Texploder just this morning published a shootout of a couple of different streaming devices, the Google TV Streamer, the Apple TV 4K, and the On 4K Pro. And just because they're different price points and they all kind of, they satisfy different needs. And so that's up on the Texploder YouTube channel. But of course, I'm still doing the AI Inside podcast with Jeff Jarvis and all sorts of other things. So just, I'm on the web. Oh, find me on Blue Sky. That's my latest thing.
Oh, there it
along
is.
With everyone else. I mean, I've been on Blue Sky, but now suddenly there's a bunch of people there too. It's kind of neat.
The Blue Sky migration is going. So
yeah, it's definitely in effect right now.
Yep. Indeed. All right, Mishaal, are you on Blue Sky? I'm totally
technically
poking the bear. I'm poking the bear.
I technically am, but I haven't posted there in a long time just because I can't manage posting to 5 different platforms. But if you do want to follow my work, I am on X. But I'm also on Mastodon if you don't like following X. I'm also on Threads. And I'm also on Telegram, and also on Reddit, also on Discord, also on all different platforms. So you can pick your poison, whichever one you want to follow me on. And if you want to support my work, you can go to patreon.com/Rahman to support me for $3 a month. Join the Discord community where I frequently tease the stuff that I'm working on, so you can get the inside scoop before I post a lot of articles that go out on like Android Authority or Android Police, etc. So, yeah.
So Mishaal, the live stream chat wants to know if you're on Orkut.
No.
Were you ever on Orkut?
No.
Do you know what Orkut was?
No.
Wow, and there is the generation
It sounds
gap,
familiar.
Everybody.
It sounds familiar. If I looked it up, I'm pretty sure I'd remember. Like, oh yeah, there was that.
There
that was
is the generation gap. Orkut was a social network in 2006, maybe.
Yeah,
5, it was Google, wasn't it? Was it Google?
That sounds familiar.
Yeah. And it was it was huge in Brazil. In Brazil.
Okay.
Yep.
And India.
Yep. Well, everything's big in India, but it was So, and I was on Orkut. Jason, were you on Orkut? I had a profile on Orkut.
Nope.
So yeah, it was
2004 to 2014.
Wow.
Was when it dissolved. Its successor, Google Plus.
That's so funny.
Punchline in and of itself.
Yep.
There you go.
So there it is. Good times.
What about you, Ron?
I was on Orkut. Let's leave it at that. Go to Threadless, buy an Android Faithful shirt. Stay tuned for the new shirt next week, or go to Patreon to get the first glimpse of it. And thanks to everybody for listening. Like Jason mentioned earlier, you can email us at contact@androidfaithful.com. We love to hear from you. We want to get all your emails. Please send your seasonal bug droids. I got a couple of them in the hopper, but I want more. Please send your questions, your experiences, anything like that, all to us. Email at contact@androidfaithful.com. We record this podcast every Tuesday evening at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific. You can watch it on YouTube and on Twitch. Go to androidfaithful.com for all your news and stuff. Hug your Android plushie. Be good to one another, and we'll see you next week. Nailed it.
All
Could
right.
you tell that I'm tired? That I'm mentally exhausted? You can tell.
Yeah. So what time is it where you're at in your head right now. How long were you there?
Oh, I don't know. It's sleep time for sure.
So
I think it's just
the Orchid website is back up.
Yeah, I saw that when you were scrolling through the Wikipedia article. It said in April 2022 the Orchid website was reactivated.
I'm
like,
Orchid.
what?
17 years ago, I started a little social network while I was an engineer at Google.
Oh.
It grew to over 300 million people. I believe that Orchid.com found a community because diverse voices. The world needs kindness more than ever. So he's building something new. Sign up for. I'm going to sign up for updates. Run at Android. That was 2 years ago. So clearly he hasn't done anything with it.
Yeah.
Yeah. No. Anyway.
Interesting, though. af.showbot.tv is a place where you may have gone to place your votes for titles. 2 Chromebooks walked into a bar. The third one folded.
That's funny.
That's good. That's a good one.
Hot Pixel phone sounds
Pixel
kind
phones.
of dicey.
1 gigabyte ought to be enough for anyone. I don't agree. Retention pond phone simulation. What? New Chromebook reviews. How many of these do we have? Oh, we have a good amount. New Chromebook reviews. So fun to touch OS. Ooh. 1 plus 12 equals 15. Nice. I see what you did there. Pixel 9 Pro lowers the BOM. Okay. Yeah. Chromebook showdown. Let's go. Everything but the laptop. Gemini gets pilled. Help us help you. Just what you wanted. Another consent screen. Google TV 15 equals Windows 9. Apple easing more RCS tensions. Nice straight approach there. Chromebook Duet is unhinged. A centimeter deep and a kilometer wide. Nitpicking screens. The daughter versus phone conundrum. Google messages is GChat to the future. And hey Google, get the message. Oh. I just fired off some things, I'm sure. Apologies. That was obviously not intentional. That was Ron Burgundy.
It happens.
Yeah.
I mean, the Chromebooks is long, but it makes me laugh. Can we just do 2 Chromebooks walked into a bar?
Yeah, maybe just cut off the last
the
part.
third one folded.
Yeah.
Two Chromebooks walked into a bar. Okay. 2 Chromebooks walked into a bar.
That works.
All right. We did it.
Hooray.
Yay.
All right, let's let Mishaal go to bed.
Yeah.
I'm going to get some mental sleep, as in just I'm going to rot on the couch.
Good idea.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Not bad. Watch your
snuggle
Android
up
TV.
with that Android plushie and chill out. All right, everybody. Thank you so much for watching and for listening and for being here. My dog has just decided, hey, you're done with your show. Entertain me. Take care, y'all. We'll see you tomorrow for AI Inside. If you want to watch, you can.
I won't be there.
Go be there.
I'll listen to I'll listen to it after I download it to my podcast player of choice.
There you go.
Be there or you'll upset the bot.